Hello there, thanks for pressing the red button, thanks for joining us on the F1 Forum. Well, that was some race weekend. It wasn't the most exciting race in the world, but I think, considering Lewis's little accident at the end there, Mark Webber picking up a big clutch of points, Sebastian Vettel finishing on the podium, it's actually been quite good for the championship, this, hasn't it?
Well, it was intriguing also because we finally saw the emergence of Michael Schumacher over Rosberg. I'd like to talk maybe more about that later because disappointed in the way Rosberg drove. And I think that Jensen didn't drive like a world champion today. He'll be the first to admit when we saw his interview earlier, he just didn't have the complete control and power to make a real effort on Michael Schumacher, and I think he should have. But we've heard from him already, and maybe there are other excuses. We'll hear from him later.
OK, well, we may be in a Formula One paddock a few hundred miles from home, but we're still connected to you guys. We'd love you to get in touch. f1@bbc.co.uk is the email address. And Eddie, I have to say, you've clearly learned a lot from David Coulthard, because you coped OK on your own.
Well, I learned from him. I did watch what he was doing in China, and the gremlins that affected me getting there, I'm glad to see in one way that it's affected him
you like
getting
that,
here.
do you? You like the fact that
I wanted to
it's
get
1-0.
my own back, so to speak, because he was laughing at me. He said, oh, you really could have got there. And I'm saying, listen, if you wanted to get here, David, you would have swam here, you would have driven here, got a motorcycle here. But it was too difficult in the end for him.
David, do you think perhaps what Eddie really likes is that he gets the airtime without you?
He hogs everything.
Eddie will need to explain exactly what it is he likes about me not being there. But good effort, guys. I enjoyed watching the coverage. I've made some notes for you all that we can discuss afterwards. Yeah, what a great result for Mark Webber out there on track.
I've asked for everyone's emails to f1@bbc.co.uk. According to our boss Mark, you didn't stop emailing for the entire race. What sort of messages were you sending in?
Well, just observations, which in actual fact, in the comfort and quiet of my hotel room, it was easier to sort of make those observations than sometimes it actually is when we're sort of in the paddock and there's a lot going on and all the noise and what have you. So that's why I think that we can all learn from that and hopefully make an even better show for the fans at home. So things, observations. We missed the contact with Pedro de la Rosa, got touched by the Renault at turn 3, which at the time we didn't pick that up until obviously Pedro made his comments. And it's very easy when you're sort of on the ground to not be able to see the wood from the trees, and as I say, when you're sitting back in the comfort of your home. So I think what it does show is that any time that any of the viewers at home are saying, God, why are they missing those points? It's because when you're sort of immersed in the paddock, there's so much going on that it's not quite as easy when you're sitting in your air-conditioned home or hotel room.
Yeah, let's not point out anything else that we've missed until we're in a meeting room back at Television Centre, David, shall we? Well, we appreciate that, and I'm sure David is right. He will have it all down on email, and he will send it in to us on an email, and that's why we employ a Formula One racing driver who's won 13 Grand Prix, because they never let up, do they? They want it better all the time.
I just want to console him about one thing, and that is that all the girls who are waving and blowing kisses that normally are for you, I thought some of them be for me, David, but regrettably, they all wound up for Jake, so I'm still lumbered into the position I still am.
I was going to say, I've not seen any women blowing kisses to anybody. Right, Eddie, we'll talk about women and kisses later. We'll talk about what we can do to improve the show as well, David, and we really would like you guys to get in touch. Questions for David at home, questions for Eddie here, and of course Martin will be nipping down from the commentary box to join us as well. So f1@bbc.co.uk is the email address. Don't be shy, get in touch with us, because of course this forum really is for you, and if you're still scratching your head trying to work out precisely what you want to ask us, perhaps this will jog your memory. Let's relive some of the moments from the Spanish Grand Prix.
A year ago, Jenson Button started on pole but got caught by his teammate. What will happen in 2010? We're underway now, and the Red Bulls start first, but will they get to the first corner first? Vettel moves right behind Mark Webber. Already, Lewis Hamilton moving towards Fernando Alonso. It's still Red Bull 1 and 2, but Hamilton having looked down on the inside, but it's still Red Bull 1 and 2. Hamilton in third, Alonso fourth, as we work for the grid.
There's a replay of the start, perfect getaway for the two Red Bulls, and Vettel immediately knowing that Webber had covered him in terms of getting the car moving. Rosberg's on the grass off the start. That's what was going on back there. This should be an enjoyable ride. Let's take a look at this. So, three in a line then. Tremendous slipstreaming there for Hamilton. Picks another slipstream up off the back of Mark Webber. On board from Al Jaswari. And very brave down the outside. How well did that work?
That's De La Rosa coming in.
So it looks like Buemi's front wing's been up against the left rear of Pedro de la Rosa, the local boy.
That's why Bruno Senna seems to have stopped, and that's really not a good weekend for him. That hasn't gone well at all. Ted Kravitz, what did he see?
That was very strange because he was given the signal to go and then he stopped, and then his front right wheel caught on fire. The brake got very hot.
Hamilton sweeping in.
Will he get out in front of Sebastian Vettel?
There is Vettel, we can see just coming along now. Along this pit straight, is he going to be good enough? This is going to be interesting, and Hamilton looks as if he's got ahead of Sebastian Vettel. Here he comes now. Almost coming together then. Almost they came together, remember, in the pit lane in China, and through off the road goes Sebastian Vettel. But Lewis Hamilton is leading. He is ahead of Sebastian Vettel. Webber first, Hamilton second, Vettel third.
Jensen's got his best chance yet of getting through past Michael Schumacher. He's just got that is the wrong side, Jensen, the wrong side.
He need to get on the inside, didn't he, there? And he's lost it again.
He just needs to shuffle Schumacher out of the way, and he won't do it from the outside.
Another back marker, and quickly.
Oh,
Massa almost into trouble there behind Chandok there. We're going to see it again now. What happened here?
Yeah, sooner or later. Well, Massa arrived out of control. He's damaged the top of his left front wing there, look.
Hello. Whoa. Collision there with Al Ghashwari. And here's Sebastian Vettel having a bit of a problem in the midfield section. Oh, dear me.
I think he's got a problem.
Your brakes are about to go. Be very careful, okay?
That's a warning you don't want to hear, is it? Your brakes are about to go.
Oh, is that Hamilton?
Lewis Hamilton in second has gone off. So Alonso then will be promoted to second, which is why there's a roar around the crowd here at the Circuit of Catalunya. And Vettel, it's just got better for him. He's up into third place. Now, what happened there for Lewis Hamilton?
Front puncture.
Front puncture, front left, and Lewis Hamilton's race. Oh. Final corner, Mark Webber. Didn't get it right in Malaysia from pole, but here he is winning in the land of the Matador. It's Red Bull on a charge. But the crowd, surely, they may give him a cheer, but this is the man they really want to see. It's Fernando Alonso round the final turn, and it's second place, which to many here will feel like a win in Ferrari red.
Well, Mark, brilliant drive, great drive, well done. Fantastic, Mark, fantastic. What a perfect weekend.
Well, there you go. That was the 2010 Spanish Grand Prix. And this is the first busy paddock of the European season. And you can see how many people there are. And actually, considering this is post-race, this isn't particularly busy. And we've got all the motorhomes. They call these things funny names, like the brand centres. Normally, we have the Red Bull Energy Station. But because it's the Monaco Grand Prix in just a few days' time, I think this is not their regular energy station. This is a special place that... Oh, I don't mind if I do. This is a special place that they've set up here, especially for this particular Grand Prix. And as you can see, you get various people, hello there, sitting around, drinking drinks, relaxing, reclining, discussing the Grand Prix. I'm sure they'll all be delighted to know they're on television. These things are quite important, though, aren't they, for Formula One? This is where a lot of deals get made, a lot of business is discussed, and the drivers enjoy relaxing in here as well, don't they?
Yeah, they've become key parts of a Grand Prix weekend, especially when we're back in Europe, of course, where they can bring these along. But even this is like the B Division one, because the main one is being floated into Monaco probably as we speak, isn't it? The main Red Bull one. So this is their sort of backup.
David, I enjoyed the fact that we spent most of last year hanging out in the Red Bull Energy Station because, of course, you were a former Red Bull driver, and as soon as you got a Mercedes run in DTM, we were hanging out in there. We have to split our time between the two now, don't we, to keep you happy?
Well, I think you've been a bit unfair. We have been in Force India, we have been in Virgin, we've been in a few different hospitalities up and down the pit lane, you know, with BBC, we spread the love.
There's a bit of hospitality one-upmanship, though, isn't there, in the paddock? Did you always have a nice hospitality suite? Did you always pride yourself on the bright yellow Jordan motorhome?
Well, it's not quite like movie stars, you know, insisting on the M&Ms with the yellow ones removed, but I always wanted to make sure there was a shower and a private toilet, because when you're drinking lots of fluid, then obviously you don't want to be queuing up with everyone else, and nothing like having a good shower after a hot race.
David, I think maybe, and you're not privy to what we're looking at, but I think that might have been a question for me, and on that basis I might try and get an answer in here before you take over. But nevertheless, yeah, the Jordan hospitality was different because we always had a British media breakfast on a Friday, and that was the kickoff. It was always a person. You can come there, do deals. Martin knows very well what it's like. But I think these are crucial. You say business deals are done. That's absolutely true. It's also a mechanism to your engine supplier, your fuel supplier, everybody. And it's a place where they can find some solitude and to be actually think about things that they are expected to do for the day, both technically and commercially.
OK, right, let's turn our attention to this weekend's Grand Prix. We're going to have a look at the start in just a moment, but before we get to the start, David, just give us your review of this race. It wasn't the most exciting, was it?
No, but I think that calling the first run down to turn one, I think that Lewis obviously nearly made a move stick there. Mark got his timing perfect this time. If we remember back to Nürburgring, his first win last year, he was a bit late and a bit aggressive on his move, which ultimately led to a drive-through on Rubens Barrichello. But he absolutely aced it this weekend, and I think also just round the lap. And Martin, you probably saw during the first lap in turn 9, he aced that corner onto the back straight, and that just gave him the breathing space to do the last sector and know that he had a bit of room coming onto the home straight. So I think really, really strong race from Mark. First lap performance from Al-Ghazari was very impressive down the inside down the middle, I should say, of two cars. And then contrast that with later in the race when he made a bit of a schoolboy error pulling across in front of Shantok. So lots of action going on there. A lot of defending from Michael. Had to defend. He's just not quick enough. Mercedes, they've got to find a second, which is not an easy task with the Grand Prix coming up.
It was interesting actually to see the seconds creeping up from Michael to the guys in front of him. But let's take a look at the start, Martin. And as David said, it was a good start for Mark Webber. What would have been going through his mind, bearing in mind he's been out-qualified by his teammates, and what happened last time he was on pole?
Well, he knows he's got to get this absolutely right. He can't afford to snooze and lose again to his teammate, and he covered him off early, not too aggressively. Then he had to watch out for Hamilton and still pick the right braking point, and it was all going off behind him at that time. And off he goes. Job done, really. He knows it too. And critically there, Hamilton also ahead of Fernando Alonso. Bit of action going on at the back of the field, all getting a bit scrappy back there. Michael Schumacher slots in at that time, of course, just behind Button.
And it's 550 metres, David, to get from the start down to this first corner with a full tank of fuel for all these cars. Are you surprised nobody touched anybody else?
Yeah, I think that was pretty immature driving from everybody. If Barcelona was the first race of the season, then I suspect we might have seen some contact. But I think that the natural sort of flow into turn 1, and as Martin will remember, it's slightly cambered into the corner. So if you find yourself too tight on the inside line, you will get wide through 2, and then you're compromised into 3, and you're vulnerable into 4. So I think a lot of the guys up the front obviously have the experience to know that.
Looking at the helicam there again, it was quite a good bit of formation flying from the Red Bulls. They covered off the Ferrari and the McLaren between them once they'd sorted their own order out.
This was quite
the
clever
beginning
from Lewis. Was this a slight bit of maturity, do you think, creeping into his driving?
Yeah, 2 or 3 years ago he would have creamed into the side of one of those Red Bulls, but that was the beginning of a great drive from Lewis Hamilton.
Absolutely, but there is another thing that I believe is a very major effect on this year's championship. If there was only 9 points and 6 points as traditionally the way the points were going in previous years compared to the 25, it's such a big amount to lose, and I can promise you it stops you making mad decisions. If Lewis had gone up the inside, that would have been an accident, but he might in the past have got away with it.
But our friend Bernie wanted gold medal, winner takes all. These points are a reaction to that, to give more points to the winner. But I agree with you, there's so many points at stake now that you've got to almost be more cautious. You can't. A DNF, a non-finish, is the worst thing that can happen, rather than losing a place now.
We talked about the 4 world champions all bunched together. Fernando Alonso wins the battle of them. He comes out as the top world champion. Just talk us through his start, Martin.
Well, he's got his left hand on that duct already to give himself a little bit more speed. Remember, those thumbs are insured for €9 million, we found out last week. Well, he doesn't seem to want to use them down the straights, but it didn't give him anything in the end. Hamilton had him well covered. There was a half a chance that Lewis could have been leading the race, but he thought better of it.
What do you think of this F-duct situation for Ferrari, David? Would you be happy, and we can see it again now with Alonso taking his hand off the wheel, would you be happy driving like that?
Anything that gives you performance as a driver, you'll take it. Back in the McLaren days, Mika and I had a 4th pedal in the footwell which controlled a single brake on the left or rear wheel, and it was difficult to learn how to use it, but once you got the hang of it, it gave you lap time. So these guys would juggle balls if it would give them some lap time. But there was a particular incident that came through in the footage on lap 15. You saw Alonso coming out of the chicane, and he's got the hand up against the side of the cockpit, and you see that he has oversteer with one hand on the wheel. That's all fine and well when it's dry, but Martin, can you imagine if it's wet and he's trying to get some F-duct advantage and he gets crossed up with one hand on the wheel? That's going to be really, really difficult to handle.
Yeah, because you've got to remember that not only is he losing the use of one hand, he's affecting the aerodynamic balance of his car quite dramatically, enough to give him 9 kilometres per hour more top speed than a Red Bull. So he's also got to be, no wonder he had oversteers, jockeying the balance of the car along.
Let's ride on board with Jaime Alguersuari off the start here. David, yourself, Eddie, most of the experts were quite scathing at times of Jaime last season as he kept ending up in the barriers. He seems to have, from somewhere, developed a real maturity this year. A couple of incidents today, but again, he picked up points.
Well,
yeah, from my point of view, if I can just go first, I think that was aggressive driving. He's showing a newfound confidence. You know, it was mentioned in commentary that his fitness has much improved over last year, and I think that's a real key part for a lot of these young guys. They've got the driving skills, but physically they're just at the outer limit of holding onto the car. So that part, the first half of the race, I thought he did an absolutely fantastic job, and you've just seen it there on the start. The little coming together, which we'll probably see later on with Shantok, I thought was a bit of a schoolboy error.
There is a little bit of, I suppose, thinking into the future, perhaps, because he possibly believes that maybe if Mark doesn't do the job that he currently is doing, there may be a free seat in Red Bull, and he wants to try and emulate exactly what happened to Vettel,
well,
and
if
he
makes
probably is driving
like this,
for next year's championship.
If he makes mistakes like that, Martin, he'll struggle to get a drive at Red Bull, won't he? He still has a bit of learning to do.
Well, he's a young puppy dog still, isn't he? And he's still finding his way. But if that was intentional, it was absolutely stupid. If it was a lack of judgment, then it was a poor judgment. But I don't know if he was angry with Chandhok or whether he just misjudged how far past he was.
In my view, I'm afraid I think he got frustrated, and I want to say he wanted to create that, but we'll never know because the driver's never going to tell you exactly why he did it. But this was a grave error, and stewards would and did look at this and weren't happy about it.
Okay, well, you've already mentioned a seat as Red Bull. Ewan has emailed in. Thank you very much, Ewan, for getting in touch. He wants to know if Jaime Alguersuari will be catching the eyes of some of the big teams now that he's starting to improve. And I guess for a few of the teams, you know, we've got Michael Schumacher driving, we've got Mark Webber currently involved. Yeah, there are a few seats there with older drivers in, and they are looking for the next stars to take those seats.
Well, you might say that, but I mean, look at what the results are. One of the old guys you're talking about currently won the race, dominated from the pole position. He's absolutely sensational. Michael Schumacher looks to have a spring in his step again. So I wouldn't rule him out for finishing at the end of this current season.
What the teams do on a constantly updated basis is they analyse every driver's every lap of free practice, qualifying and the race. And they know it's not just a couple of incidents that we're reviewing here. They know exactly how Alguersuari and all of the other drivers perform in all track conditions, fuel loads and what have you. So, you know, they're monitoring that all the time. And some of the decisions you'll see, sometimes you think, I wonder why they've taken that driver. And it's based on scientific data. There's a bit of gut feeling as well in there.
Okay, let's just nip through a few emails because this is, of course, the F1 Forum. A question for you, David, from Tim O'Dwyer. Why are Red Bulls still having so many failures? Obviously, today's wasn't terminal, but it wasn't fantastic for Sebastian Vettel, was it? They do make it hard for themselves sometimes.
Well, that's a good observation, in that they can't hide from that fact that they do seem to be pushing the limits of the car. Now, when you think about it logically, if the car is lapping faster, it's braking later, it's cornering faster, it's putting more energy into the brakes, it's putting more energy into the suspension. And of course the team has to design it to be able to go the distance. But by the very nature of the fact that these upgrades have just improved the car to a fairly impressive gap to the next nearest rival, then the simulation can only tell you so much. The rest has to be proven out on the racetrack. And we've said this time and time again, you'd rather have a quick car that's unreliable and make it reliable than a reliable car that's just slow, because that's a much bigger head scratcher. And they will work through this, and they're still in the hunt, but yes, it's been costing them serious points.
DC, something I picked up on in qualifying yesterday, and I saw it again in the race today, I don't know if you agree, but I think Vettel's harder on the car than most, certainly harder than Mark Webber. And, you know, he does bounce off the curbs, and the little chicane at the end of the lap, he was clumping in qualifying as well. Have you seen any or heard anything like that in the team?
No, it's a good observation, because when I was watching the race in the telly, I'm watching them run wide in places like turn 7 and you say hitting the curb in the last chicane, and I'm thinking, do they really need to be doing that with such a comfortable position in the race? Because it is just putting extra load into the car. Now, easy to be smart out of the car, different to actually deliver the lap time. Maybe that's what they need to do to unleash the performance. But, you know, clearly there have been more issues on Sebastian's car. If it's a pure brake issue, that means it's a supply issue with the carbon disc, then, you know, that's something they need to work out with the supplier. But if it's something which is related to a manufacturer part from Red Bull, you've got to say, then why is it happening with Sebastian and not on Mark?
Okay, well, Phil M has emailed us to say that even when he has his brake problem, Vettel seems to have decent pace, which must be slightly alarming for the other runners. Well, let's discuss one of the other teams, and let's talk about Mercedes Grand Prix. I'm pleased to say that Nick Fry has joined us. Well, Nick, we've just been having a look there at Sebastian Vettel. He had a few brake issues. Your man, Michael Schumacher, was right behind him, but was still struggling to close the gap, even when Sebastian had a problem on the car. How concerning is that for the rest of the field?
I think we're all disappointed with our performance, and talking to the senior people at both Ferrari and McLaren, I think we all feel the same, that we've got a lot of work to do. The Red Bull car is clearly extremely fast at the moment, and they've clearly had a few problems, which has maybe allowed the gap not to be as big as it would otherwise be. But pleased for Michael today. He defended very well, but he wasn't able to pull away from Jenson, and which was a little bit disappointing. But we've clearly got a lot of work to do. To be a minute behind at the end of a race is not where we need to be.
We can see Michael defending his position from Jenson here. What's he been saying since the race? He's finished ahead of Nico. He's had his biggest haul of points since his return. He qualified ahead of Nico as well. This car seems to be better for him.
Yeah, I think Michael has a very, very balanced view of things. Clearly he's pleased that he had good fun, which was the main thing for him. He enjoyed the race. He enjoyed the fight with Jenson.
He was smiling for a change at the end, wasn't he?
Well, he was, and he's had a good weekend, and that's the positive. But he can't be happy with the fact that we're so far behind at the moment.
I think, Nick, that Mark Webber could have been a half a minute faster in that race if he wanted to be. I don't know if you agree with that. So you've got probably 1.5 seconds a lap to find. That's a huge amount of time on a track that's acknowledged to be a pure car circuit.
Yeah, I think we all feel that the Red Bull actually is extremely good, and its qualities are enhanced by this track. So potentially, hopefully, we won't see quite the gap at Monaco and some of the other tracks. But I don't want to underestimate the amount of work. We think we know part of what Red Bull do, but I don't think any of us really understands fully how you get that much of an advantage, because you look at some of the corner speeds yesterday, turn 9, I think they were 20 kilometers an hour faster than ourselves and the rest of the pack. And if you calculate the amount of energy you need in terms of downforce to be that much quicker, it's not one thing. They're doing something probably fairly fundamentally different with the features of their car, which allow them to operate the car in a completely different window from the rest of us.
Nick, we spoke on Friday, and during the conversation that we had, you spent minutes perhaps speaking about your team and where you felt you were, and each occasion you mentioned Michael Schumacher, and I called you to question and asked you, why have you not mentioned Nico and Rosberg? And I would like you to confirm to our viewers that in actual fact what always has happened in a Michael Schumacher team, where it became a one driver team and the other driver got forgotten, can you confirm to us that that's not going to happen with Mercedes as we know it?
I think my answer on Friday, Eddie, was that all the questions I was asked were about Michael. So, we operate a complete even policy, and I think you saw that last year with Jenson and Rubens. And, to do well in the championship, you've got to have two drivers scoring points, which means you have to treat them in exactly the same way. And so I think Nico's shown so far this year that he's the equal of Michael in terms of speed. We've had a few races where he's been ahead. He's disappointed with this weekend. He's never quite got to grips with it. I don't think really he understands, or we understand, why he couldn't get the car balanced to his liking, whereas Michael could. So we've got some work to do, but they're both treated equally, and we love them both.
Okay, well, Nico will be frustrated. His pit stop during the race was one of the issues as far as his race is concerned. In fact, it was pretty fundamental to his race. Do you know what happened here? Have you had confirmation from the pit crew?
Yeah, it was just an error, unfortunate error, that the nut did not go on properly, and there was a confusion over the number of hands that were in the area at the time, and it's something we'll just have to look at. But luckily Nico stopped very quickly and we could rectify the situation. But frankly, his race was over before the first corner. He seemed to be pushed right off the track. Kubica kept coming across and he ended up on the grass, and it's clear there was some damage to the car into the bargain. So sadly for Nico, it just really hasn't been his weekend.
Could you use a traffic light system? Was it that was the problem, or did a hand go up when it shouldn't have done? Or?
No, it was a confusion of hands, and then there was a secondary error to do with the buttons. But I think it's something we'll look at, and maybe a bit of a one-off.
Okay, let's hear from Nico Rosberg. This is how he would assess his Spanish Grand Prix.
Nico, a pretty frustrating day for you. I would imagine it's amazing what a difference a changed car and a couple of weeks can make.
Yes, indeed, yes. But we shouldn't say that the car is bad at all, no, because I think they've worked well and we have a really good upgrade on there. But something just hasn't worked out this weekend for me. It's been really difficult from the word go. Qualifying, I just managed to get there. But even then, being 1.5 seconds of Red Bull is not where I wanted to be. I wanted to be attacking, big time this weekend. And then the race didn't go my way. I had an issue at the start with Kubica where I had to try. I had to go there, and that's what I felt anyways. And he didn't see me, so I missed 20 centimeters, and then he would have seen me. It was just that little bit missing. But okay, that's the way it is. And then everything came together in the race with a pit stop problem and this and that, and just being slow also. I was just slow in the race, so it was not so good.
What happened in the pit stop?
I don't know, but I just saw one mechanic, I'm not sure who was on the right front, but someone was like, oh geez, as I drove away. So I thought, let's stop and see if they want something.
Well, he's still smiling. It gives us some idea of the measure of the man. Then actually, Simon in Taunton has emailed into the F1 forum to say, after a difficult weekend for Nico Rosberg, which it was, has he got the mustard to keep his head and get the better of his teammate Michael Schumacher? Now the Mercedes appears to be geared in Michael's favour. And actually, maybe that interview we just seen is quite telling of Nico's state of mind, isn't it?
Yeah, Nico's been incredibly strong.
Freudian
all year.
slip.
Freudian slip,
Mico?
absolutely. Mico, it's a combination of the two of them, obviously. He's been incredibly strong right from the beginning of the year. From when he first realised, Michael was coming on board, and he's an extremely determined young man and very single-minded. He's completely focused on being successful. I don't think this weekend will phase him in the least.
I think we got the picture that the team are pretty unhappy with their car. What happened this morning with the team bosses on tyres for next year? It's a critical issue for Formula One and time is running out. Where are we heading with tyres?
We're in a much better position on tyres, Martin, than we were a month ago when it appeared that there might be only one alternative, and I think we're sitting here in a reasonable shape at the moment. That Michelin are clearly keen to supply and have made an offer. Pirelli. Likewise, and Avon Cooper. So we've got a choice of three companies talking to us at the moment. I think they're all very capable of doing the job, and discussions will no doubt continue with all of them. Probably for not for too much longer. We haven't got that much time. Whoever supplies the tyres has got to prepare them, and we've got to design a car to suit the tyres. So a lot of work to be done. But I think Formula One's not going to be without tyres.
Nick, I've got to say to you, beyond any doubt, in the interest of Formula One, in interest of keeping the cost down, and we know what new tyre manufacturer would need in terms of testing time, surely the best option is to go to Bridgestone and say to them, guys, we want you to continue. Is that not the best option for logic and sense and financial?
Yeah, Eddie, that discussion's been had many times over. A lot of people have tried to persuade Bridgestone that it would be great for them to stay, and I think those discussions are continuing. But Bridgestone have done a fantastic job for Formula One. I think they've got huge marketing benefits out of it, and I understand the board have decided they want to go on and do other things. And these things happen in big companies. If we can persuade them to stay, I think everyone will be very happy. But we can't count on that, and it's good that we've got three other quality companies that are willing to supply Formula One.
You're a clever man. You know your Formula One. What will be written on the side of the tyres next season, do you think?
I really do think it could be, at this stage, it could be any of those three. I'd like to agree with Eddie that we could persuade Bridgestone and, for a change. If we could
at least one person does.
I think that would be nice because it's just continuity, but I doubt that's going to happen. And I think the other three, they have supplied and they do supply motor racing tyres. I think any of them could do a decent job for us, and I think it's going to come down to discussion over the next week.
Okay, and finally, following on from the photo meeting earlier on today, the F-Duct. Is there talk about that being banned for 2011? Is the F-Duct being banned for 2011?
Yeah, I think it's likely that it will be. The trouble is with all these devices is that most of the top teams, if not all the teams, will have an F-Duct type device before the end of the year. So we've all got it. So we've neutralised the advantage that McLaren have currently got, and therefore we're just spending money on it. So I think that
so
may
McLaren
go the same way as the.
Yeah, but hang on though. That's exactly the sort of innovation that Formula One is famous for and should be recognised for. Well, we shouldn't ban it. Somebody's come up with a brilliant idea. Let's develop it, surely.
I think, to a certain extent you're right, Martin, but I also think Formula One should have developments, and the things we should encourage are the things that are going to be used on road cars. And I think this is why some of us, and I think the FIA, feel passionate about things like KERS, because it's the type of thing that is going to be on a road car because it saves energy and what have you. I'm not sure an F-duct where the driver has to put his arm against an orifice to stop air going to the rear wing or whatever it does is particularly fruitful. So I think the other thing which I think we all feel strongly about is that the F-duct's interpretation opens up a whole avenue of devices which could follow similar trends, and we've already had discussions in our team, and we've got developments going on of some very zany ideas, and they're very, very interesting for the engineers. They love that type of thing. They spend a huge amount of money, but actually, is it going in the right direction for Formula One? Is it going to be useful for technology? And I've got my doubts.
Okay, well, I'm sure that none of you are on McLaren's Christmas card list now. You ruined KERS for them, and now you've done the same with the F-duct. But thank you very much for joining us. Good to chat, and we look forward to seeing Michael back at Monaco. That's going to be something in a few days' time, isn't it?
Thank you very much indeed.
Okay, nice to chat. Thanks very much, Nick. Now we'll hear about the top three boys in just a moment, including Fernando Alonso, who of course did really well at his home Grand Prix. But it's not just four wheels that we have on the BBC. Of course, MotoGP is pretty important to us as well. Jorge Lorenzo won the last race in Jerez in the MotoGP, and he's been here this weekend looking like a man quite chilled out and very happy with his last performance. Ted caught up with him.
Well, Jorge, great to see you. I bet you're still sort of riding high from that fantastic result in Jerez.
Yeah, for sure. Jerez been a fantastic race for me. Maybe the best race in all my life, so I enjoy a lot.
And tell us, what do you make of the Formula One paddock?
Formula One is the glamour, is the technology, no? Maybe on the track there is not the same show than on the bikes, but the technology of the cars, the glamour of the people, the hospitalities, is what it makes the F1 different from another sport.
And you're also standing outside the Ferrari trucks. I'm sure you've been asked this before, but I have to ask you, Valentino keeps getting in a Ferrari car. Seems like that's what he really wants to do. Have you got any feeling you might want to have a test in a car, F1 car maybe?
I don't know what is going to do Valentino, what is going to make Valentino if he remains another 4 years in MotoGP or he go to this world. But I have a lot of things to demonstrate still on the MotoGP, so maybe someday I would like to try a F1 car, but not for profession. No?
Thanks very much. Great to see you. Cheers.
Well done, Jorge, at the last race, and in 2 weeks' time at Le Mans, he'll hope to pick up another win. Eddie, you were very quiet on the whole F-duct situation. Just give us your thoughts on this. Can we have new innovations, new developments, new things that increase the engineering excellence of Formula One to be handcuffed because people say, hold on a minute, these new teams can't afford it, these privateers can't afford it? How much is Formula One about these innovations?
Well, first of all, Nick hit on it just there. The money the engineers are spending is not their own. If it was their own, they would not do with the money what they're doing now. This aerodynamic, the front wing with winglets and add-on bits and barge boards, it's a shocker. It shouldn't be there. It's detracting from what I consider current Formula One. We need nice, small, clean front wings, which will get rid of the double diffuser. We know what Martin's view is on the double diffuser. It just needs to be cleaner, and then you will get people drafting, you'll get people diving on the inside. You won't get what, for me, was a relatively boring race, apart from a couple of incidents today. And I want to get the excitement back in motor racing. And I think there are other areas where the engineers are more than proficient in making things better. But I think they are going crazy on this aero program.
OK, well, there may have been an element of luck in Fernando's second-place finish, notably Lewis Hamilton's accident. If, however, there was an incident for Fernando at some point during this season, the first thing people would start questioning is, was he using the F-duct? Because there can be no doubt about it, Martin. You cannot have full control of a car when you're operating a duct in the way that Ferrari have designed it, can you?
I think he can control the car. It's just not ideal. No. The McLaren have a better system. They close the duct off with the aperture off with their knee, so they keep both hands on the steering wheel. And look, he's halfway through turn 3 presumably, and he just stick the hand over there and drive one-handed. It's not ideal. It'll catch him out one day for sure.
Okay, how would you rate Fernando's drive today, Eddie?
Extremely lucky. A car that hasn't developed the way it should. I think Ferrari have to go and look at themselves and say, hey, we are the pinnacle, or have been the pinnacle of motorsport and Grand Prix racing for a vast number of decades, and hang on, we are getting pasted. They are not giving either Massa or Alonso a good enough car to defend or to fight for a championship.
Well, David, the car might not be good enough. They might not have increased the car and improved the car at the same rate as some of the teams coming here, but they have got this F-duct on there. I know you will have been at home watching Fernando operate it. Give us your thoughts on it.
Yeah, well, I agree with Martin. It's not impossible to deal with it, but it can't be ideal. And driving with one hand under normal conditions, when everything's going for you, then you can do that, because these cars have power steering. But that's not what Formula One is about. Not dealing with everything going smoothly. It's about reacting to things when you have an issue or you're on edge, and that for me is what really separates the great from the merely good.
Okay, well, Fernando finished this Grand Prix in second place. Let's hear from him.
Fernando, congratulations. A really solid performance out there today and a podium in front of your home crowd.
Yeah, fantastic feeling, especially also when you recover some positions at the end, unexpected, because if you start second and finish second, it's very good feeling, but if you think that you will finish fourth and then you finish second, it's even better. So great performance in the car, and a very solid race in the team with no mistakes in qualifying, with a good strategy also in the race, and everything went perfect for us today.
And your car feels good?
Yeah, car feels good. We know that this weekend has been maybe more difficult than normal. We're struggling a lot with the overall grip, and I think Red Bull had a very dominant position this weekend. So we know the area to improve. We know that we need to improve in terms of pure performance, but also we know that we have a car or a package that wants to win the World Championship, and the World Championship is 19 races with very different circuits, so hopefully Monaco, Turkey will be better for our car.
Well, it was something else, wasn't it, to see Spain's most famous driver in the world's most famous car. That grandstand at the end there, it was almost like Fernando would come first, second and third, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's a great drive, and what confuses me a little is his pace towards the end of the race was immense. I mean, the team were talking to him about, hey, if you get far enough ahead of Michael, we might take on another set of tyres. So something was obviously alarming them at that point. Maybe they were concerned about what ultimately happened to Lewis Hamilton. And Hamilton wasn't the first in to put those hard tyres on. He did 49 or 50 laps on them, but he wasn't the first one in. So maybe they were thinking of that, but Fernando's pace was immense towards the end.
I can hear some cheering coming from the paddock, Eddie. No doubt that cheering belongs to Red Bull, but I just want to put this email to you regarding Ferrari. Lorna's emailed in to say, Eddie, is Massa's position at Ferrari secure when you consider how Alonso seems to be outperforming him time and again? And interestingly, Massa was asked about the way the car's working, and he said, something's not right with me. He wasn't talking about himself physically, just the ability to mould that car around him.
Well, it was a big decision. We know why Massa, the people at Ferrari really believe in him. It was a tight call as to what was going on with their drivers last year. He won that little battle, but he's certainly not winning this battle. It's very clear, even if you think back to the Alonso, he made it very clear long before this race. He said there's only a couple of people that he really fears, and it was Lewis and the two Red Bull guys. Massa was never mentioned, nor was Button, interestingly enough. And I get the impression that Alonso doesn't make that kind of dialogue unless he really knows what he's talking about. So I have to say, again, I think Ferrari are letting the two boys down, and I think that Massa's head has dropped, and it's going to take something to get his head back up again, into spirits again. OK, we've got to crack on because the last day of the Premier League season is racing towards us, which is why Eddie Jordan is wearing Chelsea blue, Christian. He's very excited about Chelsea possibly lifting the Premier League crown. Those cheers out there and the smell of champagne, Christian, I presume that's all to do with Red Bull.
Absolutely, there's a potent mix out there. So, yeah, no, it's great for the team. They work so hard. They're giving up a lot of time, especially over the bank holiday weekend, and it's testimony to all that hard work that today's result has turned out as it has. What's Mark Webber been saying? Well, there's a lot of mates, and you know what I mean, that kind of thing. So as there always is with Mark Webber. No, he's a pretty cool customer, and he's delivered a great result today. And with the issues, we had a race of two extremes. Extremely quiet on his car and extremely busy on Seb's car. And despite the issues with Seb's car, to finish third is a very strong team result. Champagne doesn't smell so good when it's drying on people's clothes, does it?
No.
Red Bull's much better.
The reason why the champagne is drying on Christian's clothes is because Mark has been at it in the paddock as well as on the track. It's always interesting to see who are the brave people that hang around near the champagne and who the people are that run off into the distance not wanting to get covered. Mark Webber, though, I imagine is more than happy to be covered in champagne. Let's hear from him.
Mark, congratulations, a fantastic result, a lights to flag finish.
Yeah, it was a special day for me, no question about it, to capitalise on the pole position. It's a very, very aggressive run to turn one here with the slipstream going on and the big headwind, and I knew the guys would be arriving in the braking, so I needed to be very precise with everything into there. Had that covered and then settle into the race, and I was very happy with how the first stint went. Nice clean pit stop. I mean, everything just went my way today, so that was very good. And you know, it was the longest Grand Prix I've done. Obviously the other victories were there was a little bit more going on. I wasn't always in the lead, and the victory came, but today was all about just you know, watching the lap board go past. God, it just takes forever, the race. So it was good to get the victory. I was just absolutely just stoked, absolutely over the moon.
It's probably the most lonely victory that you've had, but the gap that you pulled out was just amazing.
Yeah, I felt very good with the car. You know, we did a good setup, and the car felt good on Friday, and then we got the compromise ready for one lap and also for the race. And it's a credit to all the guys. You know, they worked like hell in the garage, the factory. I had all the guys back there because they buried themselves in the last 2 weeks, and this is what you got to do to be successful at this level and take on the likes of Ferrari, McLaren. You know, it's not a tea party. You know, we need to work hard, and it's absolute credit to Red Bull Racing, how they've gone about it, and Renault. I mean, we cannot forget that doing a very good job with what they have.
So before you came out here, you made a promise, I'm told, to your dogs and to other family members about this victory. Will you be doing that again before you head to Monaco?
Well, it was actually included in the promise, so I need to go there and get another points as well.
So it's not quite complete?
No, I need to, because I'm away for obviously a while, and when I go back, there was a certain amount of points I needed to get, so it helped today to.
Well, I think it's apt that the last word today should go to the winner of the Grand Prix. Mark's already talking about the fact they're off to Monaco. Very quickly, how much work is there to get all these teams, drivers' cars, to Monaco for 3 days' time?
It's a massive effort, and you know, it was one of the reasons I sent Kenny Hancomer, the chief mechanic, up there today. You know, he's done 20 years in Formula One, never been on a Grand Prix winner's podium, and it's testimony to the hard work that he and those guys are doing that you know, we're able to turn around things so quickly. But it's only up the road, so no ash cloud, we should be all right.
OK, Christian, thank you very much. Congratulations. David, we will, of course, see you in Monaco. No excuses from you, because you're already there, right?
I'm here wrecking the place, so I'll have everything prepared for when you guys get here.
Lovely, we can't wait for that. Eddie, thank you very much. No excuses from you either. And Martin, I know that you're shooting off to Nice very quickly. So we will see you in just a few days' time for the Monaco Grand Prix. Can Mark Webber produce a repeat performance?